This is TWiT.
So, bad news for you T-Mobile folks. We were hoping it was just a bad dream, but no, T-Mobile now admits that Motherboard's Vice investigation was accurate, and their data has been hacked. Now, Motherboard says it's 100 million users. T-Mobile's only admitted to 40 million so far.
The information is upsetting that they got away with.
Oh, yeah. You want to hear what they got? It's essentially, it sounds like it's the, when you get a smartphone these days, they do a credit check on you. So you have to provide information for the credit check, including social, date of birth, things like that. It's the, even if you didn't sign up for a T-Mobile account, but you got the credit check done, it's in that database. So even non-T-Mobile customers, you may be bit if you've ever tried to get a T-Mobile account. Social security numbers, phone numbers, names, physical addresses, unique IMEI numbers for your phone, driver's license information. Motherboards has said they've seen samples of the data, and they did, in fact, contain accurate information. A hacker selling a small tranche of this, 30 million of these for 6 Bitcoin, $270,000. He says he has 100 million from, and this happens a lot, a database left open. T-Mobile initially reacted last week saying, we're investigating. Now they say, 7.8 million current users had information stolen, along with 40 million records from past or prospective customers who had applied for credit.
Is it possible that T-Mobile didn't know this and Motherboard revealed it, or that T-Mobile knew it and didn't say it and is thus violating, I think, some laws?
Yeah, certainly GDPR has and I think California also has a breach.
Yeah, both have a
law
notice
that you have a day.
Well, you have a certain amount of time.
72 hours.
I don't know how long T-Mobile.
It's pretty quick.
Okay, yeah.
Well, we don't know. We don't know. When did they know and when did they know it and what did they know and all of that. But they say, T-Mobile says the hack doesn't appear to have included credit card details or other financial information. That is in contradiction to what Vice says. Hackers are selling it, which means, so T-Mobile's got, but hey, the good news is T-Mobile's offering all of you 2 years of identity protection services. And they're changing the PIN numbers on your accounts. So T-Mobile has started sending out text messages to customers.
We're sorry your house got burned down, but here's a bucket.
Yeah, here's a bucket in case you need it.
Better bring the bucket.
That's just awful. But it's just continually happening. You can almost assume it's going to happen.
Yeah.
I don't know if you want to talk about this, but this ties to, it's not in here, but I did write something last week about regulations I would like us to have for, I called it the Era of IoT, but this particular story hits on at least 3 of the things that I think we need. 7
principles for regulation of the IoT, in the IoT era.
Yeah, if you scroll down, you'll get there. So one is, for this one, it would be, and some of them we've talked about, like number 2, we did a whole show on. But if you scroll down, I think to,
Number 2 is rethink the Fourth Amendment for the digital era. Somebody pointed out, and I take this correction, that I was conflating the Fourth Amendment limits government's unreasonable search and seizure. But I have to say, that's the presumption is government has that power and ability to do that. If somebody else does it, that's just against the law. No non-governmental, no law enforcement agency has the right to search your house or your phone.
Well, the government is actually going through private entities to get access to this data to avoid this very issue.
That's true.
But the T-Mobile thing, I was thinking fits with 3, which I think we need way more, way higher penalties for things like, I even say this, leaving unencrypted personal data in unlocked cloud instances.
Yes, they're negligent, and they should be paying a price for that. Yes.
And then also letting people, we'll go with that. Anyway, I just wanted to put that out there because I'm getting very frustrated with this idea that most of us were like, it happened again.
It's another one.
It's the 7th. My 7th principle is rethink our current forms of identity and create different layers of identity.
That's important. Social security number is a bad way to identify people. It shouldn't be used that way.
So we need a layer. We need a couple layers. We need my stupid New York Times password that who cares if it gets out, right? We need things like for pretty secure things that are tied to our financial data, but could still be easily changed. And then we need like an inviolate thing that no one sees except for maybe the government when we pay our taxes. Anyway.
Mr. Searles touched on this a little bit today on Floss Weekly. Maybe it was at the end of Floss Weekly today. Sovereign identity, and the guest was saying, okay, when we go to a bar and they want to make sure that we're of age to be able to drink alcohol, people hand over their driver's license that has their name, their street address, their height, sometimes their weight, their date of birth. When all they really need is, are you over 21 or not? Or are you of age? It's a yes, no, but we hand that information over. And Searles was saying, we need some type of sovereign identity process that will protect us as the consumer, as well as, keep all of this stuff out of the hands of big tech where breaches don't really matter.
Ironically, it's big tech that's proposing this kind of thing. There are all sorts of proposals. Use your phone. Apple has something like this where they control the information when you use your Apple card that the merchant gets, and they offer to use a special email address so that you'll get email, but they won't know your email. And I think you're right. I think it should be, I don't know if you could tie it to the smartphone, but there should be, this is what months ago, Stacey was talking about your data blob. This is kind of like that. This is the idea the phone could hold all this information, and then there needs to be a system for saying in a trusted way, this is your birth date, or just the stuff they need. And I think you could do that on the phone. But
the other piece of this that I've long wondered is, if we presume that N amount of information is going to get out no matter what, then what we need to do is also regulate the other end of this, and that you can't do certain things with certain basic information.
Yeah.
And that there's more security required on that end, so that if they know your mother's maiden name, or if they know your address, or if they know your social security number, which they already do, then nothing can be done with those things.
Well, there is a credit freeze, and thank goodness the Congress a couple of years ago passed a law saying companies cannot charge you for doing a credit freeze. You can go to the big 3 credit reporting agencies, TransUnion, Equifax, and I always forget the third one. And Experian. The one we don't like. And
Ant won. 10 points to Ant's team.
10 points. And there's credit freeze and credit lock. You can investigate the two, but they shouldn't cost you any money. It keeps people from using that information to get credit in your name. It's a pain. It's a pain if you're younger and you're actively renting and buying houses and buying cars and getting credit. But nowadays they can't charge you to freeze and unfreeze. So I think a credit freeze is something worth looking at. I honestly think you should probably freeze your credit with all 3 reporting agencies.
We keep ours frozen all the time.
Yeah. It used to be you had to have a reason. But nowadays, you don't.
It's just a right.
Yeah, it's a right.
Which we do too. Yeah.
You do it as well. I should probably do it.
Yeah.
It's a good idea. It is. That's the only thing, is you have to unfreeze it if you want to apply for credit. So if you're doing that a lot, it's not very convenient.
Yeah, when we had to get our mortgage, it was kind of a pain. They all have these apps, but they're terrible, and you're like,
well, they don't want to make them
bad at this.
They don't want to make it easy.
No, I know, but man, it just drives me bonkers.
Yeah.
So
did you remember, Stacey, before you applied for the mortgage? Did you remember you had to unfreeze it, or did somebody call you from the bank and say, Ms. Higginbotham, you have something to do?
We're organized like that.
You are.
Thanks, Andrew.
Yeah, Andrew's got it all under control.
He's got everything on lock. But do we think the T-Mobile hack?
Go ahead.
Oh, no, I was going to ask a question about the T-Mobile hack, which is, do we think this could be used for SIM swapping attacks? Is that where we think? Because I know that was a worry people had.
Oh, yeah. Well, T-Mobile is now going out proactively changing pins for everybody who was affected. That's exactly how. If they got the pin, and apparently they did, otherwise T-Mobile wouldn't be changing it. Okay. I could pose as Stacey, and they'd say, okay, hello, my name is Stacey Higginbotham, and I need a new SIM. All right.
You have hours of my voice. You could do a better deep fake than that.
All right.
Come on, man.
Stacey, what's your PIN? And I go, well, and I know your PIN. Date of birth, yeah, I know that. Last four of the social, I know that. Most cases, that's enough of a hurdle to get that SIM sent to a new address. So, yes, it could absolutely. But that, also identity fraud of all kinds. So, not good. Not good. Thank you, T-Mobile.